Are you tired of dying to assassins? Tired of dying to Teemo Shroom Poison? Or maybe spamming every button on your keyboard isn't stopping Karthus ults from obliterating you? Well, try the eLECtric Recap's Zhonya's Hourglass. For just insert gold price here. Gold, you can laugh in the face of your assassin. Simply press a button and go golden. And let your team murder that smug assassin. Please note, there can be fatal side effects of the Zhonya's Hourglass, included but not limited to Garen's murdering you after stasis, Zed murdering you after stasis, you're still dying to the devil's poison, Yumi not murdering you. The new eLECtric Recap Zhonya's Hourglass. Kiddies hate it. Cheap rip-off stopwatches will break after use, and the electronic recap will not be held responsible for broken goods. Zhonya's Hourglass, tried and tested against all forms of kitties. Except that kitty. No one stops the ultimate killing machine of Rengar Kitty.
Good evening and welcome to the eLECtric Recap, the show where we talk about everything LEC related.
I'm MaskedSwan, your resident analyst and creator of the occasional
And
very
I'm
funny...
Milky Cereal, and I interrupt MaskedSwan all the time.
Milky, that's incredibly rude of you
So
to
let's
do
get
that.
right into things and introduce our guest
Guest
for tonight.
for the show, it's Arailla, the analyst for Astralis. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Hello, guys.
Hi, thank you so much for joining us, Arailla. And how's MaskedSwan's pronunciation of your name? How's my pronunciation of your name? Because
Pretty
we're
good.
struggling there.
Pretty good. I think, yeah, I couldn't tell you how to get it the French way, but we are getting really close, so it's fine to me.
We're working there. We're working. Baby steps. Baby steps.
Who knows? By the end of the show, we're going to be absolutely nailing it. But
I'm sure.
with that said, let's jump right on into the show. Kicking things off, day one of week 2. Mad Lions taking on Excel Esports. And MaskedSwan, after week 1, I think Mad Lions definitely needed to clean up their games just a little bit.
Yeah, hugely. This was a game for the Mad Lions where week 1 was not clean. They were doing okay in their games, but a lot of the fundamentals, a lot of the macro decisions just weren't there. I had a few issues with their drafting as well. It just seemed like week 1 problems were very obvious for Mad Lions. However, this first game against XL everything was solved so quickly. Mad took a really early lead and they just improved in every single aspect. Every lane from Mad Lions won here. I was honestly really impressed with how well they played their early map control and objectives, and this game turned into somewhat of a one-sided affair for me.
Arailla, your thoughts on the first game of the day?
Yeah, I think Mad Lions are really good at maintaining and snowballing their leads, and clearly, from what we've seen against us during first week and also during second week versus XL, it was proven again and again. And I was surprised, but in a good way, to see Elioya already on the Ivern. Since he's a rookie, we'd expect him, stick to the conventional picks, the Olaf, the Pantheon, the Lilia even, and he just got it last pick, say, okay, I'm gonna hide it until the end and get some cheese out of it.
I think what's really impressive about that is we keep seeing Ivan be last picked to really hide the identity of a composition. We actually saw it over in the LJL from CogCog, the top laner there. He hinted towards it and then brought it out. And by the way, if you don't know, I cover the LJL, so you're going to keep finding random Japanese LJL facts from me. I think one worth bit of credit over to the side of XL is Checklord getting that one-on-one kill versus Humanoid. It wasn't really much, but it definitely showed that there are at least the members of XL weren't giving up this game. They were still trying to fight, and you can sometimes see that, especially early on into the split. Some players, their mental game, it can kind of slip. XL players didn't show that. They were trying at least, so there is still some credit to be taken away from this lineup.
Yeah, for sure. And those rookies like Chocolate are really hungry to show from the laning phase that they are here for blood. They are going to show some big plays, and yeah, they are showing it already for sure.
And I think every time we've seen XL, even though, they don't necessarily, take those wins, they always seeming to find a way to find those fights to show that, if you don't play it cleanly, they will find a way back into the game.
Yeah, absolutely. They were always looking for a way. It never popped up because Mad Lions are clean. Like that, game was just textbook by Mad Lions. They didn't allow any way in. But in all credit, XL were looking for it. They're at least fishing.
As you mentioned, the Mad Lions just able to snowball leads, and Armut's Aatrox is kind of becoming a thing of nightmares as well now. But Mad Lions able to take the win at the end of the day.
Yeah, I honestly can't wait to see Gore Drinker be nerfed a bit, nice item, nice meta. But yeah,
And
he's really using it to its full potential, and that's nice to see.
I think we
Scream, for
might
sure.
need Moonstar for Flowing Water nerfed as well, but we'll have to wait for that one to come through. Moving on to game 2 of the day, Schalke taking on SK, and Schalke were a team that both myself and MaskedSwan, we had quite a few question marks on after their performance in week 1, most notably against Vitality, where it was an absolute nail-biter all the way to the end. And SK, another mid-table team, and speaking of that table, so close, so tight, and I think this was always going to be a game between two very closely contested teams. And that's the kind of way the game turned out. We saw some interesting stuff. The Mundo coming through as well, MaskedSwan.
Yeah, that Mundo wasn't expected. This honestly is going to be a great week to talk about Schalke. I'm sure we'll get into far more about why it's a great week for Schalke later in the show. But this game, honestly, versus SK was super exciting. I want to get from our expert, obviously, some idea of why a Mundo was picked, because I did some research very quickly. Dr. Mundo had only been picked once in the jungle, and that had been played once in the season 4 days before over in the Belgium League by Aesthetic, who was part of Team Sector 1. They lost. I was able to watch some of that game. It didn't seem like there was a huge point for the Mundo. It seemed like the guy just wanted to play it. Maybe I'm completely crazy. Can you explain the Mundo a bit for me?
Well, I didn't exactly study the pick because we were not really interested by it. But
Cool.
what I saw was that I think it was Piozik who introduced a Deer Jungle in the LCK.
Mm.
Um, he was also spamming Dr. Mundo a lot in Korean solo queue.
Ah.
So maybe what happened, and I'm not sure for real, but maybe what happened was that Tinks decided to try Mundo as another jungler tank that clears decently fast, that has good early game ganks, and can be at least a good presence in fight, later on in the game. Well, he got a quadra kill that game, so I'm not sure if scaling option was that well considered, considering what he did from there. But yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest. Seeing two comps aligned, Pantheon letting Pantheon open and picking Mundo about it, I don't know. I'm not
I mean,
convinced.
you mentioned the quadra kill. For me, when I was watching the game, I saw the quadra kill. I was like, oh, wow, the Mundo pick's actually going to work. And then it turned out that quadra kill was half of SK's entire kills because they only managed to get 8 in that game. So, I mean, in that context, the Mundo worked very well, but maybe not in the overall sense of things, MaskedSwan.
Yeah.
Go for it.
I just wish that quadra just went to Azir, it was so far back in lane versus Oriana. Having blue with some resources always did wonders in the past, so that's just what I wanted to see that game.
Yeah,
But,
I mean,
yeah.
I think you're great. Well, like that whole play was set up by Blue doing an amazing streamer shuffle into the whole team, and then Mundo just steals it all because of his W just always on. It was like, oh, this is really awkward for the side. I mean, Schalke, credit where credit's due. They won this game. They looked really good doing it. Outside of that quadra kill,
this game was actually textbook. Like, I'm going to keep using these repeated terms, but it's because, honestly, they played this game really well. Gillius was all over the map. Broken Blade got a 1v1 kill, I believe, versus Jinax in this game. The whole team of Schalke just looked like whatever the kind of problem, similar to Mad Lions in a way, whatever shake, whatever nervousness, whatever problems were happening during week one, Schalke have erased that because we'll definitely go into more with that for later for Schalke. But this game versus SK, I think might be a sign of things to come from Schalke.
And we'll see what Schalke can pull off. And of course, I talk about their match on the second day of the weekend in just a short bit. Now, moving on to our next game. And Arailla, I can see your face already. G2 versus Astralis. But let's start off on a positive note. That Baron steal from Nuke Duck was pretty class.
Oh, damn. It's terrible for me because there are also some games that I expect us to be able to win or at least be on a good point against the enemy team, And against G2, I thought that maybe we were not there yet as a team, and so I didn't expect too much from this matchup. And so in those cases, I'm not getting too depressed when we lose, And so getting hope after this Baron steal, then to see them crushed at Drake, it was really terrible. Terrible, yeah. So, but yeah, Nuke Duck, please keep stealing the naturals. We need that. Please. That was a great play.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this game from G2 wasn't clean. At the end of the game, I remember I was watching Mike check before coming into this. All of the guys afterwards, they were like, guys, I don't know why. Like, Jankos apologized for just running it down like twice. And he's just like, I don't know why. I just went at them and I just thought I knew exactly what to do. Granted, once the game got later, sure, Jankos was able to go into hard carry mode and he was a monster on this Olaf. But before he got to that crazy point in the game, he was doing a lot of questionable plays. And the members of Astralis, honestly, were finding a lot of picks and kills in this game. They weren't just like kind of rolling over and just taking it from G2. G2 obviously are going to be the aggressors. And if you look at it from just a nameplate perspective, I think most people would go, yes, G2, I know all these players, great. And Reckless is now deciding to play Senna because he wants to play Senna. And this was the first game, and I'm mad about this, Kaiser isn't 100% presence anymore because of this game, because neither team wanted to ban it. And I understand from Astralis' point of view, you don't want to ban it. But then, especially against G2, I understand that logic. But G2 should be banning it. My presence, man.
They ruined my fantasy LEC. I had Reckless down on Kaiser and Jin, and where's my Kaiser? Where's my Jin?
Yeah, well, to be honest, he really had some nice ideas within his build, so it was a great pick within this situation.
The Ginsu Rage Blade third item's amazing. I loved it.
Yeah, it was really working well, to be honest. 10 and 2 and 15. Like, I'm sure if you have him in your fantasy league, the points were still kind of fine out of him.
Fun fact, most kills on Reckless done in a game so far. So Astralis can take that going way. So like no one was able to do that week one. So hey, find the silver linings.
I also just want to bring up Arailla because you mentioned how sometimes you go against the teams like G2 and the expectation isn't as high as it might be against other teams, and I'm guessing that's probably maybe kind of the same for Rogue now as well. How did you kind of take the result against G2? What were the silver linings for Astralis, and what can you kind of take away as a positive heading into next week's games?
I think most people are starting to see now is that we are always ready to handshake in fights, always answer when the enemy team is trying to do an aggression, and we are like, okay, can we answer that in a positive way for us? And so it can lead to very active games, either in kills or deaths on our side. Obviously, it's a double-edged sword. But and it's a new team also.
Of course.
I think we are the only team with only one player remaining from last year, and 2 players at most have been played together last year. So what I want to say is that we're ramping up, and this game against G2 was a good sign that the guys are starting to mesh up well together and have the right calls and the right combined int. Zanzara would say maybe, like one of them is going in, the whole bench is going in, and most teams don't do that. And it means that our opponents are not as good as us in those forced fight situations. And well, I want to say, even if it was messy, maybe that's what that's why we won against Vitality. They were not used to this amount of pressure and forced fight all the time, even if messy. And against G2, that nearly worked, even though there was some int on their side, as they admitted. And so I think that after a few, maybe more weeks, I don't know how much time it will take. Maybe it's just some days, maybe some weeks, I don't know, but we are going to find the right formula at some point, and not only about draft, but also about when should we go in, when should we not go in, who should be making the calls extra, and this is all starting to work, and so this game is a good sign. Just TLDR.
Well, moving on to our fourth game of the day, and MaskedSwan, this was one that last week we knew this was always going to be a big game, and it is our match of the day: Misfits versus Rogue. Rogue, of course, top of the standings, tied with the G2 coming into this, and Misfits having looked clean in that opening week. Sure, they made some mistakes, but Hirit looked great, VTO looked great, and this game was just absolutely spectacular.
Yeah, Rogue were the only other positive team from week 2, going 2-1. Rogue going 3-0 with G2. So everybody else was 1-2. So it was like, oh well, clearly Misfits are doing something right, because you don't want to just assume players from week 1 are already just strictly worse or strictly better. Especially with week 1, it can be all kinds of different reasons why a team might not operate in their first game. Like, you have to give players the benefit of the doubt. This game was really clean from Misfits in the early game. We saw Hirit coming down for that TP on Malphite, getting a kill in bot lane and securing first blood. We then saw Razork responding with Hirit and getting a kill on Odawamne in the early game. And I was like, wow, this is really aggressive from the side of Misfits. I'm loving the tempo of this game. But this whole time that pressure had been made around the map, trying to help Razork, Hirit, and just kind of enabling their carries to get a bit further on, like Kobe, get that kill, try and get momentum going. Rogue are really good at farming. Like, scary good at farming. Like, Chovy levels, almost good at farming.
I mean, it is Larson.
Yeah, like Larson was having Chovy levels of farm throughout the whole game. But as was Odawamne, and you're like, this isn't meant to happen. 2 players aren't meant to have Chovy farm levels, and one of them's meant to, like, what is going on? Rogue never fell out of this game, even though they gave first blood, even though Misfits were finding so many opens, and it looked like, if you just looked at the points table, the score table, you'd be like, oh, well, Misfits are winning, and then you look at the gold and go, wait, Rogue's ahead. What is going on in this game? And Rogue were just so good at finding this, like, macro different reasons of going, oh no, it makes more sense for us to do this. Oh, we don't need to fight for this Rift Herald because we're going to get 4 plates down in bot lane. Like, so many small things, and they were just already aware of everything that Misfits were doing. The game was close for like the first 12 or 13 minutes. Once Rogue had secured that second dragon, it really started to go far more in their favor. They were securing far more of the objectives, and I was just really impressed. But this was a game, and there's a reason why this is our match of the day.
Yeah, Rogue are just really, really, really good at reallocating resources when they know they just can't take a fight head on, and just say, okay, we take this loss, but it's not actually a loss. It's just a trade, because we'll be there and doing this instead. Okay, you take this Drake, we take your blue on the other side of the map. You take this turret. Okay, we are going to take Herald instead. And it's just being even. Okay, you're trying to make a pick here. Then I'll farm 2 extra wave there, and I'll have a Chovy level farm.
Yeah.
And they are really being mindful about time being spent versus on a play versus being spent on gathering resources smartly on the map. And that's impressive, to be honest. Week 2 of
Yeah.
Spring Split already. And yeah, that's good signs
I
for
think
what's next.
I think you hammered on a really good point there, with them just being able to identify it with the trades really well. I think their first turret trade was just really well done because they just got first turret, and Misfits at the time didn't have a response. They had nowhere on the map to go. And the funny thing was they had already secured the Rift Herald. They got 2 kills, and it was like, okay, Misfits are finding a way in. And then Rogue just was like, I think it was Oda Wamne that got the first turret in top because Hyrit was obviously all over the map. But them getting first turret on top of also getting the first dragons, it was just really well played. Both teams had really good teamfight potential, which was important to see because even when Rogue were about 2.5k ahead, maybe 3k ahead, Misfits still found the angles. They still were able to get the dragon. They got turret and a kill into dragon with 2 more kills, and it was like, oh damn, Misfits are actually finding their avenues back into this game. Problem was, for me at least, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Arailla, once Rogue had the 3 dragons, they basically played ping pong with Misfits and were like, we're gonna do this Baron, and if you want to go for dragon, that's fine, you can secure at any time, but we're gonna just keep going for this Baron. And then they just kept pulling, and once Rogue obviously got the Baron, that was GG.
Oh yeah, soul point is not fair, to be honest. Just the amount of pressure you get from it. Yeah, but they play well around it, so props to them.
One thing that I do want to bring up is one of the storylines of this game was the fact that it was Vander going against his former team of Rogue. And I remember after the first day, there were questions being asked about Trimby's performance. And after day 2 and day 3, they were gone. It was like, Trimby's great. Trimby's an amazing support for Rogue. He's fantastic. But then in this game, 5 deaths on the Seraphine, more than the rest of his team combined. Every other member of Rogue having 1 kill. So I want to bring up the question of Trimby. Are these, is he dying to save his ADC? Is there a purpose to his deaths, or is he just making mistakes?
Or Vander just making him pay, Just,
Oh, okay.
I don't know, but you mentioned the matchup, and it could be the trash getting onto the Seraphine. I'm not sure about that. I know that seeing him buff on the Seraphine and on engage support is a good sign, telling he's willing to play both kind of lanes. And even in fights, Seraphine and say Rail have really different purposes, and him being able to play both, is really good coming to week 2. Also, he's taking a lot of risks even early on into the game, and that's why that's where these 5 deaths can come from. He loves to roam, he loves to follow inspired through the jungle, and that's not necessarily where you want to find the Seraphine at the enemy red buff, maybe it's too far, too early into the game. So maybe on these things is not able to differentiate the playstyle he should have as Seraphine versus as Rail, as I don't remember the other engaged supports he's used to play.
I do want to get back onto Han Summer a little bit later because, I want to go. That ult that he made that landed on VTO in the mid lane was fantastic. But let's go on to our final game of day 1, Vitality versus Fnatic. Now, MaskedSwan, I remember last week, I think it was you and Initialize, you slightly doubted Fnatic. You said, oh, Fnatic, they looked a little bit iffy. I said, Fnatic, they got their win. They're back on form. And they were able to take it. But MaskedSwan, first of all, I'll let you have your little run about Militza picking up the LeBlanc.
too far into this, but there was no reason. There is no reason at all to be playing that there. If you want to play an assassin, play a Carly. There's a reason she has a high ban rate in worldwide play. There is a reason, okay? Yes, she's mostly played top. I'm well aware of that. But you can play her mid, and I'll be honest, until Arailla plays her, until Chovy plays her, don't care. Don't care. Trash pick. But no, in all seriousness, LeBlanc doesn't actually offer this team comp a huge amount. You're not going to have a kill on Niski playing this Orianna. It's just a really weird pick. Itemization already at the moment for LeBlanc isn't great. You have to get a Medjai's going. You have to get accelerated and far onto your build. And then, yes, you can be the LeBlancs of past. But at the moment, her stats aren't there. The itemization just really isn't there. I'm sorry, if you're going Liandry's on her, you're already wrong. Because she always used to be the flat AP stat checker. That's now Udia. So yeah, we're in a weird place. I'm not gonna flame it too much more, but God, LeBlanc just makes no. I like LeBlanc as a champion. That's the messed up thing. I would rather see Zed, honestly, rather see Zed, and Zed is actually okay. Play Yone, obviously, because then you get certain mems on the coverage team popping off. But yeah, that's my thought.
Do you agree with that, Arailla, on LeBlanc?
I'm not much a fan of a pick either, but I'm.
Should I win?
If Astralis now pick LeBlanc next week, MaskedSwan is going to be atting you on Twitter, and you might have some questions to answer that.
Yeah, maybe I'm just here baiting my next opponents. Don't ban LeBlanc, we're never going to pick her. There's no point. No, maybe I'm just seeing, so there was LeBlanc, there was also Nidalee, Leona. Maybe they were hoping really have her rolling early to get the game and not have to buy this laundry and buy something more bursty, And maybe she had to adapt because the game plan changed once she wasn't fed. As
That's
maybe they are getting, maybe this composition gets them a lot more leads in scrims, and they are saying, okay, we are able to snowball this kind of comps. Let's do it on stage, and with results we saw there.
See, Milky, I love this because Arailla is coming in with the perfect level-headed point of view. She's got the steps she's got levels there. If Vitality, if Astralis ever do pick it and go, hey, if it's picked, we were doing triple mind games with you. It's 4D chess here, as well as also identifying the reasons why it would have changed instead of me being the hard-headed, no, champion bad, item bad, no. I mean, Leandri's is fine. It's just, yeah, I love that. I love that. It's level-headed. Outside of that, Fnatic actually played this game really well. There's not much more to say. Bwipo got a solo kill for First Blood. 30 minutes in, Fnatic had 4 kills, 1 dragon, first turret. This is Fnatic. Honestly, I have my doubts, and I think I was right to have my doubts. Their performance in week 1 wasn't good, but as I've already mentioned, I'm more than happy to give a team the benefit of the doubt if their week 2 performance definitely starts showing up. Fnatic showed up far more than they did in week 1. Far better performance, honestly. But the rest of this game, once they got to the 22 minutes mark and Fnatic got the ace, the rest of the game was an obligation. They had to finish it, but they were going to win at some point, I think is fair to say.
I just want to bring up as well, do you remember that bit where Selfmade decided, hey, look, I see a full health Leona. I'm going to kill LeBrob in the middle of it, 2 other members of Vitality. Let's go. And he actually almost pulled it off. Was the most ridiculous thing, but thankfully he died. Otherwise, it would have been very strange. But on that note, we are going to move on now to day 2. So our first game of day 2 was Excel taking on Astralis. And Arailla, we talked about, the G2 game, and you said that, Astralis is always willing to kind of handshake for those team fights, never really willing to back down, and they will fight to the end. But to kind of quote what MaskedSwan would like to use, it felt a bit like a textbook game from Excel. They didn't really seem to leave many openings. It was a slow game. We're talking about 2 kills in the first 20 minutes. And then it was just slowly grinding down from the side of Excel. And I'd just like to know your thoughts on the game.
Yeah, I'd like to call it. we are 1-4 in the league, but I'd like to call that game a clear underperformance from us in terms, at least, of activity in game, of what we are used to, both on stage and in scrims. And yeah, it clearly showed, because 2 kills is definitely not what anyone could expect from us. I'd say it was a bit of a test toward a different playstyle. I think no one expected Promiscu to be on Lulu, for example. Well, that test clearly failed. So we may see Promiscu on Lulu again, but maybe not in that exact setup. I'm not saying it was on him that we lose the game, obviously, but in the mix, that's different things like that were tested. And yeah, Excel really played super well, considering our lack of proactivity, and really snowballed on us from that. Just said, okay, you're not fighting us, well, we'll just pick you when you're doing. They played well. They played textbook, as you said, on this, and yeah, respect to them for doing this and not letting us ways to get back into the game, still them not they're not sure or anything, and nothing like that happened that game, and yeah, GG to them. That's all.
Okay, so let me bring some hype for Astralis here. The fact that it took XL 40 minutes to end this game is just unacceptable from them. Honestly, XL played well, and I totally agree with that. But my God, 40 minutes to clean a game where they should have ended it at the 30-minute mark off of the first Baron? The fact that it took them so long. But then, with me saying all of this, you have to then look back and go, it took XL 40 minutes to end versus Astralis. Astralis are clearly doing something right to prevent XL from ending. And honestly, if you look at the gold graph throughout the time, the first 22 minutes of this game, there's less than a 1k gold lead to the side of XL. There was total opportunities for Astralis to have come into this game, and I definitely can imagine a lot of the coaching staff around Astralis, you yourself even, might have looked at that first 20 minutes and thought, oh, maybe if we had done this a bit differently, maybe if two or three things are done differently, there were definitely ways to win this game for Astralis, and I think there were opportunities in this game. You were getting objectives. Astralis wasn't falling behind in objectives. Actually, arguably, you were ahead in objectives for the early game. So it's definitely a weird one. XL drafted also, they kind of sinned in this draft. When you pick Rakan, you have to go with a tanky, engaging jungler. Typically something like Olaf is almost always seen. XL had already banned the Olaf. So then what do you normally do? The reason you pick Rakan also is you play Udyr. Astralis had the Udyr. So they went with the Lilia, which is just not going to complement what Tor was doing on this Rakan at all. Kryze just couldn't get great engages that worked with Tor for whatever reason. I don't know what was happening with there. It took XL so long to actually get a combo. Once they did combo, it was their game to throw away, in all fairness. But credit where's credit's due. Astralis were able to disengage, re-engage. White Knight had some really strong Gragas ults, just they weren't able to do anything with them, and that was the most frustrating thing in this game, because I was like, oh my god, oh my god, hey ho, XL clean this game, but 40 minutes, man, 40 minutes.
I mean, you said, Arailla, that, you were only able to get 2 kills, but let's remember this was only a 16-kill game. It was, I think, as you were kind of alluding to, MaskedSwan, it was very, very cautiously played by XL. And almost double/triple checking that, okay, there is no way that we can possibly lose in these situations. And even then, there were still some fights where, there were 3-4 members of XL super low, and White Knight coming, oh, pardon me, not White Knight, Nuke Duck coming about this close to be able to find a triple killer in the fight. So it was on a knife's edge, and as you mentioned, MaskedSwan, up until 20 minutes, super tight, only 2 kills in the entire game.
Tried to end sooner and forced it a bit more, we would have been able to get those fights and get back into the game. To be honest, the game didn't feel really lost until the far the end. It was as I said, yeah, all these white knight ults and so on could really be key points to unlock the game again in your favor. And yeah, it didn't happen. And yeah, sometimes slow is the right play. Slow play or no play is the right play, and Excel recognized that at least.
They took a leaf. They took a leaf out of the old Origin style of playing from last year,
Yeah,
right?
I was thinking just
Yeah.
that. With the
Yeah.
50-minute games and cheer over wards getting destroyed, let's go back to that meta.
Hey, you can't mix up Astralis and Boring. Okay, there's no puns to do with
I
this.
mean, look, destroying wards are very entertaining. I'll have you know, Hylissang died to try to get a ward in the Fnatic game, okay? But anyway, moving on to our second game of the day, Misfits versus SK. Now, Misfits, they look good against Rogue. They've been showing promise. And then SK did this thing. They dared to take Vayne against Kobe. And you know why you don't do that? Well, because apparently you win when you do that. SK took the win, and I honestly don't know where to start with this one, MaskedSwan.
So here, Hyrit got first blood. And honestly, the more I see from Hyrit, he's the only Korean player in the LEC at the moment. And I love this guy. One, he has a bubbly personality. Whenever he's been on camera or interview, he's so bubbly. In the mic check that was for week 1, he was like cheering for everything that Kobe was doing. He was like cheering when Kobe and the whole team were getting kills. He was like, yo, let's go. And the rest of the team were just silent, deadpan. It's like, okay, well, he's your hype man. He gets the first blood, and I was like, okay. In my head, I'm like, I think Misfits are maybe a slightly better team on paper. But I think SK do have the players that can play around it. The problem is, Hyrit got focused really early on. Like, he gets first blood, and then SK are just like, we're going to kill this guy. We're going to just take him out this game. It takes them, like, 3 or 4 ganks to get there, but they do it. And then guess what becomes their play? We're just going to camp this guy and try and find his jungler while he's trying to shadow him. And then it just kind of went in that perspective, in their favor. The huge fight, though, that really happened around the 23-minute mark is honestly what decided the game, I think. I might be wrong about that. We can get a resident expert who actually watches all the games from a higher level than a guy that just commentates League of Legends in the Japanese scene. But I think the 23-minute mark where the huge team fight, the ace happened, and SK ran over, went with this. What do you think?
Well, I don't remember the team fight.
Very good. Then I sound great.
To be honest, just looking back at the drafts, there's not just the Vayne that pop up to me. There's also Twisted Fate plus Talia. Usually Talia gets banned these days from red side. Here Misfits decided to let it open. And Twisted Fate also got into the hands of Blue. Blue, who showed in week 1 that he was really proactive even when the Twisted Fate wasn't his. When he was playing Sylas, he was using it as soon as he could. And so having those two enabled to go on the side of a map and do whatever they wanted and lock someone up and basically do whatever they wanted to Hyrit was a really big early game, I'd say, advantage already for SK, just from the draft and from these habits they already have on the map. And having those two also be able to pressure whatever side of the map they want also allows Kobe to, farm and scale up as Vayne on the other side, And for sure, once Vayne gets a bit scaled up, she can join the fun. And Kobe knows how to do that, yeah.
I mean,
So, yeah.
this was a great game. I think you identified the double like pseudo global with Talia and Twisted Fate. That's like a really like tech like if every team could get that, they would probably want that at the moment. Like Talia, as you've said, always bad, still 100% presence. Very happy about that. Twisted Fate had 100% presence this week, and I think we're seeing more and more of a reason why that's happening. The global ability, we're getting back to a global meta, which I don't like, but then we're in a global meta where Udyr's top tier, so I'm very confused what's going on. One other thing I would love to highlight from the SK lineup is treats on this rel, because this rel was super important for how SK were able to close a lot of these team fights and kind of prevent the opposite side, like preventing Vander from actually getting some good heroes entrances, because no, you're not going away. I'm keeping you here. There was a few times he was landing like 2 or 3 man stuns. The treats was on this. Just really, really well played from the bot lane here of SK.
Yeah, it's actually funny because back in the days when Treats was playing in Europe,
Mm.
you know, when he was, for example, in back, it was not the LFL back then.
Oh,
But
you want to go really far back? Okay.
yeah, really far because he spent. I'm going far because he was in my team actually. I was working for Genside back in 2018. So I'm going far back before he went to NA to play for TSM Academy.
This is like
And
movie star riders kind of era, like movie star Genside, right?
exactly, yeah. And that's the year where Mad Lions won EU Masters with Nemesis.
Oh God! Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And so that year, Treats was a huge Rakan player with all these engaged and really big team fights, and he was always be able to unlock new situations. And seeing him on Rel tells me that he's able to unlock fights as well, and just go into the fight and find these good ultimates, locking in the carries. And well, the kits are not the same, but you see my point, the charm of the locking you down with me. And I think he, with all his experience, is able to see good angles already with a champion and already putting it to good use.
Yeah, it was a good win to come through from SK. Moving on to our third game of the day, Vitality versus Rogue. And I remember MaskedSwan earlier on in the show, you know, you were praising Rogue about how well they're able to trade objectives and always make sure that they have a goal lead. And you're kind of looking, hang on, this team's got 2 kills. Wait, how are they behind on gold? And I think Vitality Rogue probably highlights that even better, because
Yeah.
for me, this was like the first real time that Rogue didn't look in command from the start. Again, you know, they were down 4 kills to 2, but then again, you look, it's like, wait, how did they have a goal lead? And from that, they were able just to, you know, pick up and take the win.
Yeah, this far more than any other game really showed kind of I don't even know, just a fundamental understanding of what to play around the map, what objectives, farming, when to actually go for a Rift Herald, when to just give it up. Rogue were just they'd done it once, as you already said. This was them on steroids even further. Something like a Rise just wants to AFK, sit in lane and farm until Chovy says, no more farming, time to win the game. And then he goes, oh, okay, you go, Mr. Chovy, I'll listen to you. And then he comes out and then wins.
I just want to point out quickly, it was actually Comp who had the most farm in this game by 1, and it wasn't over Chovy Larson himself. It was actually Hun Summer. So I just want to put that one out there.
Uh-huh. Okay,
Yeah.
so my point was that everyone was farming. That would make Chovy happy. I mean, honestly, this was a game where just Vitality looked a little bit neutered. More on the fact it was actually just Rogue being able to just prevent the side of Vitality ever coming into this game. There was just never an option. I think the biggest disparity is when you start looking at it and go, everyone on the side of Rogue has just 1k. Just a K advantage over their counterpart, except for maybe Trimby and Labrav, because supports never get anything. We know that, Milky. We are support brothers. So I don't know about what role did you play? Quickly, very quick side note.
Support these days, actually.
Oh, you know, there we go.
See, what is it about, you know, all these other people saying, yeah, supports don't need items. Yeah, 2 items are fine, but what? We want more items. There are like these 3 item slots that we want to occupy.
Well, now junglers are using our items, top laners, supports, AD carries, even if there's a Seraphine, like, just Soraka as well. Like, then we're never allowed to have our stuff for ourselves. But coming back to this game, Rogue just completely overthrew Vitality, and I never really saw a way in for this game for Vitality. And I think that's the more worrying thing for something like Vitality to look back, because then they can watch this game back and go, we just did wrong from minute one. And you learn a lot from losing. Like, obviously, you learn far more from losing than you do from winning. But I don't even know where I'd start if I was on the side of Vitality. Maybe just chalk this up and go, all right, lads, next one. Because I think on broadcast, they actually said, hey, if this was a scrim game, you would stop at 15, 20 minutes and you would just go back to the drawing board and go, okay, guys, let's run it back because we just messed up everything. Yeah, this is a little bit weird one. Rogue just looking really good, though. Rogue looked really good.
Yeah. Anyway, that's what we can all see. But I think if Vitality want to take anything away from it, they have to do it a bit step by step. Like, okay, on this kind of play, this is how you can. They can even learn from Rogue. You know, like if the enemy team play like we did in this kind of setup, this is a good idea of answer. And then I don't know if you want to dig too much into these games, especially when it's the last game of a week and you will also to start anew, preparing from the next opponents, and weeks are really short. So just 3 or 4 days of scrims. So you don't want to dwell too much into this kind of days of games. And yeah, also they lost against this way against the best team in the league, and they can just say, okay, we are not there yet.
I think that's a really healthy way to actually look at that. No, I appreciate that point of view. No, I'm just saying that. That's all.
I do want to talk a little bit more about some of Rogue players and just how Rogue look, but we'll talk about that towards the end of the show when we look at the overall standings. For now, we're going to move on to our fourth game of the day. G2 taking on Schalke. I mean, G2 are just a fantastic team, so obviously they won. So with that, let's move
Milky,
down to our fifth game.
They didn't. They didn't win. Did you watch the game? Did you actually watch the games this week for the LEC?
It's like G2. It's like it's G2. They look better than they've ever done. Like, I don't need to watch the games. I like had a whole thing I was going to talk about how Jankos was popping off. You know, Reckless is in his comfort zone. He's just like smurfing. Wonders like he's still playing World of Warcraft, but he's actually doing some solo queue now. Like, I had the whole thing down. Is that not what happened, MaskedSwan?
No, Schalke did the textbook on G2. It wasn't G2 pulling the textbook out. Schalke pulled the textbook out, and Broken Blade got a solo kill on Wonder. Like, this is like
Whoa,
the man.
hang on. That was Wonder inting. I saw that. I was looking at the highlights, and I just see Wonder in the middle of the lane, like on no HP, trying to fight Broken Blade. It's like, what are you doing here?
Doesn't matter, he's still inted, and this is Broken Blade, and guess what? Broken Blade did occasionally carry games on TSM. He did. People might not like to admit that. People might want to pretend that Broken Blade was a huge problem on TSM. He wasn't. I'm a fanboy of TSM, and I can outright say that. He wasn't a lot of the fault. But it doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter. Honestly.
We've discussed about bringing up NA on this show.
Sorry. I just got a bit flustered there. I just
Are you still a fan of TSM in 2021?
We can talk about that after the show.
Okay. Okay.
This was, I mean, Mickey wanted to die for some reason and gave them first blood. He just went into the middle of three members and just died. Just funsies, I guess. 6 minutes in, Mickey had already died twice. Schalke were like, okay, we get 2 kills, we get Dragon, we're getting an early lead. Great. And then I was watching LS's stream while this was happening, and he was like, my Leona's 0-2. Does Reckless start getting cold sweats and goes, oh, it's happening again? And then he stands up and looks and he's like, oh no, that is Wander over there. No, I have got Mickey. That is Caps in the mid lane. It's not Fnatic. I am on G2. Wait, what the hell is happening here? And it's like, oh no, this is the game that G2 do. Because G2 have always done this, except for 2019, really, where they just have a few games where they just, for whatever reason, just, I don't know, what's happening with them. I'd love to go on ProView and get into the comms, but this game was just bad.
I saw someone joking on Twitter that Reckless asked Mikix to play a bit more Vanilla Sang, and he delivered, you know. Yeah, I don't know. It was weird, but because for once it was not G2 that got a lead and hinted it. It was Schalke that outright won the game by themselves and not by getting handed it to them, you know. And unless if you consider that all those single occurrence of kills were hints from a G2 side, like the solo kill on top lane extra. But G2 have always been known for being a threat that can get back into the game at any random moment. And they were not especially known from the start by being a strong early game team. And the fact that Schalke got that early game team and never let go was, surprising everyone, I think, because as you said, after week 1, people were really questioning Schalke performance and berating them way lower.
Well, let's move on then to our final game of the day. And this was mine and MaskedSwan's game of the day as well. Fnatic versus Mad Lions. Fnatic coming in, you know, they had got their 2 wins. They're looking like they're back in on form. Mad Lions having had their win from the previous day. And from the start, that bot lane, it's like someone had said, right, fight. And everyone just went absolutely crazy.
The bot lane of rookies going at it with a few veterans. I mean, Karzi and Upset just apparently want to fight each other and limit test and range test and just do any small thing that an AD carry can do to try and make themselves feel better against their enemy, AD carry. And I think part of the reason this game had these huge swings was because these teams wanted to fight at every moment they got.
Yeah, even too much from Fnatic, I'd say. But yeah, I think Selfmade also didn't have his best Evelyn performance that day. Through a bit more random fights he shouldn't have taken. Yeah, I'm not sure about why the Evelyn Pantheon draft like that either. I'm not sure what was
I
happening.
would agree with you. Oh, go for it, Milky.
I was going to say, you know, Humanoid was 5-0 at one point, and it looked like Selfmade was able to find those picks, but as we got later and later into the game, it just looked like it was getting harder and harder for him. And I remember one fight in, I think it was the top side jungle of Mad Lions, Humanoid getting focused down so hard, but just like by the skin of his teeth, being able to survive, and in the process taking down Selfmade, taking down Niski, and finding an Emperor's Divide that kept him alive for a little bit longer as well when Fnatic had thrown so much at him. He was just huge in that game.
Yeah, he was huge in this game. The big problem for the side of Mad Lions is that while Upset didn't have a lot of kills, he always had a gold lead over Karzi. So you could never fully write off Upset in this game. Every time Fnatic, it was like, ooh, it might not work out. Upset ended the game with 16k gold. Karzi ended the game with 14.2k gold. Upset was always ahead. I was watching this game with LOL Esports up so I can see the golds and everything distribution. Upset was always ahead. So every time it looked like, oh, this is probably going to be a favorable fight for Mad Lions. Oh wait, Upset and Fnatic are going to try and find something. Problem is, Upset got KS'd a bunch by his fellow teammates, so he couldn't be funneled even further, and maybe have actually carried this game. Because remember, this is a game where Fnatic actually did have the advantage. They lost the advantage, had a huge swing of about 6k gold came over to the side of well, 6k gold swing rather, 3k gold ahead for Fnatic, and it was like, okay, Fnatic look like they can probably win this now. But let's look at Baron fights again, and pain is the only word that comes to mind, Milky.
Yeah, a fair bit of pain. But with that, let's just recap the results from the 2 days of a game. So day 1, Mad Lions took the win against XL. Schalke proceeded to be SK. G2 beat Astralis, with Rogue beating Misfits in our match of the day for day one. Fnatic beat Vitality in the final game of the opening, or I say the opening day of the week. Day two, Excel were able to beat Astralis, SK beating Misfits, Rogue taking down Vitality, as would be expected. What was definitely not expected was Schalke beating G2, and then the final game of the day was Mad Lions taking the win against Fnatic. So with that said, I think we should take a little look at how the LEC standings are shaping up after 5 game days. So, Rogue at the top of the standings, and now I feel like this is finally the right moment for me to bring up this point, because Larson, as you mentioned many times, MaskedSwan, is the Chovy right now of Rogue. You know, he's just stays alive all the time. He doesn't seem to die. Sure, he's died a couple of times so far, but he looks so good. And Arailla, the point I want to bring up to you is Sama looks unleashed right now. It feels like he's got so much confidence. And I noticed this particularly in the game against Vitality. Every single chance he got to go for a play, he was taking it killer instincting forward without a care in the world. And even when it looked like he might get caught, Trimby was there to buy time. And it always looked like Sama had that one little thing that could get him out. And it honestly, it looks like Sama is playing as if somebody told him, it is impossible for you to die. You can't do anything wrong. Just go for the plays. Because we asked this question last week, but Sama surely is one of the best 2 ADCs in the league, and maybe even the best.
Well, I'm not sure I'm able to rate ADCs, to be honest, so I don't want to enter that debate. What's for sure is that he's number one on the European ladder right now in solo queue.
Yeah.
So he's the best on that standard. Also, I guess having a new support that is a training, I'd say, by himself, and shaping him into what vision of a game he has about laning, about fight, about how he should be peeled for, should be protected, extra engaged for. That is probably another enabler for him. So, yeah, some of my French pride is also happy having him at the top like this, let's say. So I'll take that.
Yeah. And well, some fans that won't be having pride right now, MaskedSwan, are going to be the G2 fans. 4-1. They've lost one game, and I remember, if anyone's seen I think it's the G2 or the Riot VOD, but it says Reckless is saying before the game, right, we need to win just so that we can't let Rogue be top of the standings. And well, maybe karma, who knows? But G2 take the loss, and they've got Schalke right behind them now in the standings.
Armor is actually a good pick at the moment, but that's not what you're asking me. You're asking me about G2 here, and G2 Esports, this is a disappointing performance for them. Anything but number one is not going to be acceptable for this lineup. They need to be at the very top. They're meant to be showing this is the best roster. We gave perks away. We got reckless here. This is how this roster is meant to be shaping up, and it's an awkward one because Schalke looked really comfortable in their game against G2. So a lot to go back to the drawing board for G2. One loss isn't anything to panic about. It happens. And hey, Rogue versus G2 is definitely going to be shaping up to be a huge matchup for when we see it. I'm actually now interested when we're going to see that. It's not going to be till week 4, 5? Week 4 is going to be a hype week, Milky, because that's when Rogue face off against G2.
Yeah. And well, we'll have to see, because, well, at the moment now, I'll be honest, I think Rogue are going to beat them, to be honest. Right now, I think they are. They've just looked clean and mistake-free, I think, is the word that I'd probably use. Maybe Trimby has some brushing up to do. But going a bit further down, Mad Lions in 4th, ahead of Excel. They've jumped up the order, looking much better than they did in week 1, Arailla.
Yeah, I don't know. I was hoping to see us there instead of these teams, but didn't happen. Yeah, I just wanted to actually add something else about G2 before we keep going down the ladder. It's just that I don't think most of them, maybe Reckless, I'm not even sure, care about regular season standings. They are used to last split. Rogue was first actually of the
They
standings.
were, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So Fnatic themselves are not used to have great spring starts. On the contrary, fans are really upset of this trend that first
True.
worry them until playoffs appear, and when playoff arrive, you end up having G2 versus Fnatic finals, and these teams want to have good standings for sure during the regular season, but in the end, they know that they have to fully show up during playoffs, and yeah, they probably wanted to have a perfect record if they could. Now that they can't. Maybe we'll have some other fun games as G2 knows best. Maybe not. Maybe it will be a 17-1. I don't know, but
Maybe.
really, I don't see any concerns from them, even with a few losses here and there.
Well, they still have some split if they want to go for the perfect season. But let's take a look for the games that are coming our way on Friday and get some predictions coming on in from our analysts. Okay, first game of the day, Schalke taking on Rogue. MaskedSwan, your thoughts?
Well, okay, so Schalke need to find the miracle that they had last time. I don't know what kind of elder god they need to praise. I don't know what they need to sacrifice, but
I
whatever
believe
they
it's
did against
GodGillius,
G2.
right?
Ah, yes, of course. They have God already on their side. Okay, Schalke win. Schalke beat Rogue. God, no. In all seriousness, Rogue should probably beat Schalke, but this is definitely hilariously. If you asked me at week 1, oh, are you excited for when Schalke play Rogue? I would have gone, no, not really. I think Rogue are just on paper the better team. But now that we've seen Schalke have a very clean game versus G2, I'm actually excited. If Rogue just flatten Schalke, I'll be like, well, that sucks. But hey, I mean, in the back of my head, I was expecting it. This also could be a hugely fun game to just watch and enjoy watching more than anything else.
Yeah, I'm seeing Rogue take this one too, obviously. Maybe the easiest prediction on that day. And I hope for a nice and fun game. The thing is, Rogue are actually going more the Origin way, as they were baby Origin before, And so I hope they won't keep a trend to be too clean and show us some nice action on the way.
You need them to have their perfect games now, so that when Astralis come against them, that's when they can then make their mistakes.
Smack 'em.
Okay, going on to game 2, Misfits versus XL and Arailla. I really want to side with Misfits. I really enjoyed watching them play week 1. I still think that they could be one of the top teams, but I'm kind of looking towards XL right now.
Fair. The Misfits didn't have best games. Well, I'd go with Misfits, to be honest. I think that Kobe obviously has shown with his vein last week that he still has a lot of carry potential to show up. I'm still a bit hyped, to be honest, by Vitio. I want to see more odd plays from the guy. If XL lets him his way, obviously it's free win, but they probably won't do that. But anyway, right now I enjoyed more watching Misfits game in a really decisive way, finding the good leads with Razork, with Vander leading the charge. And I've been more impressed by Misfits than XL overall so far.
Okay. Game 3 then, MaskedSwan, G2 versus Vitality. Is this our upset of the week then?
Probably not. I feel like G2 might have a few wounds to lick, and I think this one might be the most one-sided game we'll see in the LEC, because this is a time for G2 to come back with a statement, not for no other reason. And honestly, it could be any team that come here, they would receive the full wrath that G2 will do, and then they'll go back to memeing. And then they'll go back to memeing.
So
I'm
are
just
you saying we're lucky it's not G2 Rogue this week because otherwise Rogue would get slaughtered? Is that what you're suggesting here?
no. We're lucky it's not G2 versus Astralis. So I don't have to be saying all of
It's
this.
done
God.
already.
Analyst.
It's done already.
I know,
Please.
I know. That's why I'm like, anyway. Yeah, no, I feel really bad for Vitality. I think Vitality definitely have some really impressive players. Sneaks has especially impressed me a lot. I really like their jungler. But I think I need to see a little bit more from them. And sadly, Vitality are having some hot games, some cold games, and G2, I doubt are going to let them go too far with this. I'm giving it G2.
Is that the same for you, Arailla?
Yeah, same. I honestly want to see Vitality perform, but they are just not there yet on stage, and I don't know what's blocking them. But yeah, maybe on second phase of the split, tides will change. But no, it's G2 for me as well.
Right, going on to the fourth game of the day. Mad Lions looking impressive, looking like they're getting more into a run of form. But then again, this is an SK that were able to take down Misfits. And Arailla, what are your thoughts on this match?
Maybe it's a bit biased, but I want to say SK. Obviously, they have blue, Jesus, they have treats. My heart say SK, and not only my heart, but also the fact that we've yet to see a true blue pop-off game, and Humanoid is actually known for being picked off randomly on isolated deaths, so it might be abused on that one. I just don't want to see a Mundo jungle again, please. But yeah, I want to see SK take this one.
Is that same for you, MaskedSwan, then?
I'm going to have to go against our analyst here. I'm actually siding with Mad Lions. I understand treats. I understand that you can't go against your boy. I totally appreciate that. But I have an unhealthy obsession with watching humanoids just 1v1 everybody and just get a kill on them. It's this man in the mid lane, I'm just a huge fan of Humanoid, huge fan of Kazi. Like this roster that came up through the last year, I'm huge fan of them. Even if I think they're an underdog, I'll be cheering for them. So I have to side with Mad Lions. I'm biased here. If I was a betting man, I don't know. I think I wouldn't bet on this game. But my heart goes with Mad Lions. My heart goes with Mad Lions.
Speaking of bias, we then go to Fnatic versus Astralis, and MaskedSwan. I'll let you give your thoughts on that one first.
What? You're making me go first?
Yeah, I'm making you go first. Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Because
all right,
I think we all know what Araya's going to say, right? She probably has to say it as well.
So I'm going to go in a completely different angle than you're expecting me to go with this. So I was going to go Yamamoto Cannon. I was going to go, so Yamamoto Cannon is going to be going to the boys of Fnatic and go, all right, guys, all right. So you beat Vitality. Well done. I expected that of you.
Yeah, I used to coach
Mad
them.
Lions. Yeah, exactly. That's I stopped doing that. I went to Korea not long after. Mad Lions game, lads. What happened? What happened, Mad Lions, huh? What happened, Fnatic? Again, Mad Lions, they beat you. You're not doing this against Astralis, all right? We're gonna win.
Right.
And that's all that's gonna happen. Then they're gonna win. I'm sorry. They're gonna Fnatic.
They're gonna have like a Braveheart moment.
Build up for this. Damn it.
I don't know. Whippo is still playing pretty well in the top lane. I'm still a bit unsure about Niski. His place within the Fnatic team has been really, really good, but like there are just times where he just randomly is not with the team for some aspects of team fights. Upset hasn't fully integrated to the team either. So if there's gonna be a way that I think Astralis could do this, it could be by breaking those two players.
Araya, your thoughts? I mean, you're going to be the most prepared of any of us when it comes to this matchup.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously, all I can say is that I'm predicting us to win because else, why would I even try? But yeah, I think that Fnatic are more beatable. They look either really good in the game they won or really bad I mean, on first week they looked really bad in the game they were
Okay.
losing.
First week, yeah.
Mad the Mad loss is something else actually. But yeah, we clearly have some angles that we can abuse, and I hope we are able to showcase that on Friday. That's all I can say.
Exciting.
Well, that's our prediction. So I think we got Rogue. I think we were split on the Misfits Excel game. G2 for G2 Vitality, Mad Lions against SK, and then split for Fnatic Astralis. All right. But before we do go, it is time for MaskedSwan's very own meta recap.
Hello, everybody. Now, welcome to the MaskedSwan meta breakdown as part of the eLECtric recap. This time, I'm not alone, though. I've brought Milky and Arailla, our guests, into this section. The reason is we actually have someone that looks at the meta for part of their job, so I feel like it made sense. And Milky's here for just comic relief, aren't you, sir?
Yeah, I'm just here. I'm smiling. I'm waving, and
You keep looking cute,
I'd say I'm
Milky.
looking pretty, but yeah, I'm not.
Yeah,
Sorry.
exactly. You looking adorable over there. Let's first things first, though, talk about what we witnessed in this week's meta breakdown. Olaf, Pantheon, and Talia kept their 100% presence for this week, and they were joined by Renekton and Twisted Fate for this week's 100% presence. Important thing of note, Kai'Sa was missed out and has now lost her 100% presence rate. This was actually because she wasn't picked in the G2 versus Astralis match. And let's have a quick conversation about that one. Do you know why Kai'Sa wasn't picked or banned at all? Like, there wasn't even a hover. And is this because of the reckless factor because of his pool area?
Well, G2 didn't ban it either, so
They didn't know. They should have.
well, no, because we didn't play it, so they were right not wasting a ban on it either. I think both team realized they had just better picks to go through, go with that game. Yeah, I really liked the Senna build. Reckless showed up, and on our side, I think that Samira was way more suited to the way we wanted to play that game.
Yeah.
So yeah, no case, just that time.
Just like to ruin my stats of 100%, which I love to use for clickbait reasons, even though I don't use much clickbait, and that was just for... Anyway, I'm going completely off topic here. Let's continue and talk about the rise of Rel in the meta support. She saw a 60% presence rate, and compared to week 1, that is a huge uptick in this champion. Support's already seeing a bit of diversity, and the way I want to kind of poise this over to you, Arailla, is we're starting to see the rise of flex champions. The rise, or the idea that flex champions like Gragas, like Pantheon, like Jace, they can be played in more than one spot. Lucian is another one. But we're seeing a huge amount of these flex champions be picked in draft and in spots of the draft where it's hiding the information around the draft, but then they always get played in the same spot over and over and over and over. And it stops being like Lucian isn't a bot lane carry anymore. He is a mid laner now, and that is his only role, even though he could be played bot, mid, and top if you are that good of a top laner in certain matchups. They're not being picked. Why do you think that's currently happening in this meta at the moment?
Well, both Lucian and Gragas are really great at their respective role that are mid and top right now,
Yes.
for sure.
Yeah.
Also, yeah, you still keep the threat of the pick actually changing position. It won't happen too much with Lucian because he doesn't really have any bad matchups that would force him out of mid lane.
That's true.
You could also say that if, for example, there were too many, let's say, jungle banned and Gragas was the only remaining option left, maybe there would be a swap that would be, thought about in those situations. But yeah, teams usually know what the possibilities of their opponent are, whether they are, let's say, fake flex or real ones.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to
people
steal that,
can know
actually.
that.
I'm going to steal that fake flex. I actually love the idea of doing that. This is a fake flex for this team. This is a real flex for this team. That's actually a really This is why you're an analyst and I'm not, and I'm just a guy that talks on a show about the LEC, Milky. You got a good guess here, Milky. Good job, mate.
Sorry.
Going
Thanks.
on a little bit.
Also,
Oh yeah, go for it.
yeah, just to end on the flex thing. Also, the thing is, even if you know that, for example, let's say, I'm going to say something wrong, but let's say Zanzara doesn't play Gragas,
Sure.
and let's say he never played it in competitive and never played it in solo queue. People are going to assume that Gragas is a fake flex, only top, maybe support, but they wouldn't they wouldn't even think about jungle. Well, Riot gives secret accounts, so maybe you would be training on those. And at the start of the season, it's really hard to say whose secret account is whose. And also, that's what scrims are there for. So maybe we are pretty sure that some players are not trying champions in solo queue, but maybe just one time in solo queue and then full scrims. And so you can't know which champions you are really training. So even if you're like 99% sure that a flex won't be at a position, you still have it in the back of your mind. Okay, maybe I shouldn't pick this champion because the flex could change position just to counter me. So it's assumed that it will be in its main position, but you still have it in the back of your head, and you just don't want it to backfire needlessly. These are all pros, and they all can play at a decent level champions, even though it's not part of their active champion pool.
I mean, if I could just interject quickly, I mean, we saw it
course.
from Doinby for FPX, picking out the Malphite, and apparently he had to, check the range of abilities and all of that stuff. So, yeah, it's not something...
Yeah, some players are really are better than the others, like Wunder. You know that he will first time jump on stage, no problem. So, yeah, it really depends on the players. But yeah,
It's not like any of
always
these players are
interesting to see.
professionals or anything. It's no, I think that's an amazing insight because I completely forget about the part that Riot can just give a player a high level, high elo account, and they can immediately start spamming like 100 games on this one champion, and then go, all right, that account's now done with. I'm never going to touch that account again, and then ask for the next free account. And I know that's something that's done heavily over in Japan, but I completely forgot that the rest of the world will be probably doing this even more. That's actually, yeah, thank you so much for all of that insight. That was amazing. Thank you. If you don't mind, I'd love to just pick your brain on the last few little meta parts, and then we'll hand it over to Milky. So Fnatic's self-made. Evelyn. No reason to be playing that in the meta, right? Within reason, obviously. There's always a corner case scenario for everything, and if you're going for like an assassin engaged dive comp, then I could definitely see for something like that, especially if you're against like a low mobility squishy comp. I think that would be fair, but Evelyn just didn't seem to be played.
Evelyn reaching a certain point of a game can basically assassinate anyone she wants. She just has, to pick one, and that one will die. And maybe she will die in the process, but you know that you can turn the game into a 4v4 if you prefer it that way. And also, right now the meta is rather on the farming side of the junglers. Junglers usually do 1 to 2 full clears before saying, hey, maybe I should help my laners. Maybe I should get into the actual game. And so it lets Evelyn a lot of time to freely farm, gets to a level 6, and starts being a legitimate pressure on all the lanes at once. So self-made being a good Evelyn, let's say.
He is known,
yeah, legitimates the fact that this pick can pop up at any moment, given that they think it suits well the comp, and
cool.
Yeah, it could play it probably in any meta like that, even if it's not in the top 10 of junglers being played in the world right now.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good way to look at it. It's similar to the Reckless Sivir pick, even if it's not the ideal thing to do. They can still just pull this out and probably make it work. And we're going to end on G2 because it's only fair for them while they've got their wounds a little bit hurt at the moment. Let's talk about this Kled pick because Kled in this metagame, it's a bit weird. His itemization is fine. It's fine. It's he gets to play with Gore Drinker, which obviously helps, but Gore Drinker doesn't quite fully work with him because he wants to go in a different direction half the time. He wants to kind of do almost Nars build, but which mythic item has actually completely escaped from me at the moment. But Kled, what's your perspective on Kled at the moment in the metagame?
I'm not
If you
too
have one.
versed on top lane matchup, so
Okay.
I can't really talk about lane.
But
Yeah,
Kled,
I think
yeah,
that
yeah.
he can split, he can engage, he can accelerate fight. I mean, if G2 played Sivir, why not Kled after all, you know?
Touche.
Um, and if he can make Godrinker work in this build, why not take advantage from it? But yeah, I am not sure about top lane matchups that much, so can't say much about it.
That's absolutely fine. I'm just I saw it get picked. I did some research. Nobody else is playing it at the moment. I'm like, wonder what is going on here. But I think your analogy of, well, if they're playing Sivir, why not play Kled? And I think that perfectly falls in line with the G2 mentality, Milky. That's actually going to be this section of the meta recap. Thank you so much for Arailla for coming in and telling me when I'm wrong and when I'm right.
Thanks for inviting me. It was a pleasure to participate tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, of course, Arailla, for joining us. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show. And thank you, MaskedSwan, for being wrong all the time and letting Arailla correct you. But no, thank you, everyone, very, very much for tuning in. This has been the second episode of the eLECtric recap. We'll be back for our third episode next week. So make sure to tune in for that. Of course, you can follow Arailla at lol_Arailla. And you can stay up to date with everything we're doing on the SQ1 of Twitter. So if you want to see some, let's say, leaks of what might be coming for next week, make sure to head on over. But from myself, from MaskedSwan, and from Arailla, stay tilt-proof on the Rift, and good night.